Hello, this is Carrie again, and I have another video for you today. Today I will be reviewing the Koh-I-Noor Mondeluz. I think that's correct, but if I am wrong, let me know down in the comments. So let's get started. I did a review recently of the Koh-I-Noor Polycolor, which are the Koh-I-Noor artist grade pencils, and then I saw these on Jackson's, and if you saw my unboxing of the Jackson's, there'll be a link to that up there. But anyway, these came in those Jackson's, and I've been playing with them for a few days, and I am ready to do a review. First things first, these are made in the Czech Republic. They are supposed to be light fast, but I personally have not tested them. They all come in this tin. They come in the same configurations as the other ones. They come in an assorted set of 12, a gray set of 12, a brown set of 12, an assorted set of 24, a landscape set of 24, a portrait set of 24, a set of 36, 48, 72, and then in a wood case of 36. Unlike the, I thought this would be like the Koh-I-Noor Polycolors. These ones are slightly different. In the Polycolor, they have names right here, but I'm not sure if I got an older set or what. But this is where the name would be. So originally I thought this was the number, but that's actually not the number. Somebody told me on Instagram that the number is here. So these are the individual numbers, not the ones back here, which is kind of confusing because the name for the Polycolor is back here. So anyway, so there are no names in these pencils, which is kind of I don't like it, but whatever. These are also hexagonal, which is the same as the Polycolor. So if you have them both together, you're not going to be able to tell the difference by touching them. You're going to have to like look at this and see that this is the brush one. So so I was hoping for more indication of the difference between the two, but that's pretty much the main outward indication. So so that's that. So anyway, I got this set of 24 from Jackson's, and I think at the time I paid $18 plus, you know, whatever shipping cost from London, but I got a whole bunch of other stuff at the time. So anyway, these layer and blend really, really nicely. The price is the same as the regular Koh-I-Noor Polycolor. The prices for these can vary quite a lot, and they can be a little bit more challenging to find in the US. Dick Blick has the set of 12 for $12. The set of 24, this set Dick Blick has for $20. The set of 36 they have for $30. So it's a little weird, again, but that's all that Dick Blick has. Jackson's has the full range of colors, and Amazon, as far as I could tell, only had the set of 24. And that they were selling for, let me look at my notes, I think that says 29. 21. Sorry, I can't even understand my own handwriting. That says 21, not 29. So let me show you the swatch cards here. And we're going to swatch them out together in a second. But I did want to show you this and show you the mess that I made, in part because of the fact that I was confused about what the actual number was. So this is more confusing than my color charts normally are. But it is what it is. It does still help me figure out what's what. So that's kind of the part that matters. I may do another one in the future, but for right now, I'm not going to bother with that. Let me show you some of the stuff that I did with these. Hold on, let me show you. So this was just like this was when I first got it. So I swatched them out. And then I tried to do Yellowstone National Park. I'm not sure. It's not really finished, but I don't know how I feel about it. Anyway, I tried to do some. This was my drink. I had a problem with drawing my drink because I kept drinking it, and it was good. So I didn't get a chance to finish it. And then the more I drank, the less cognition I had. So this is definitely not my best work. But I did do this watermelon. This was my first ever watermelon, and my first time using the white opaque pen. So you can see the white opaque pen on there. But anyway, but otherwise, this is just the coloring, and then I went over it with the thing. Last thing I made was this here, which is where my toothpick dispenser, which is where it is. So so I made this. I didn't do a whole page in the coloring book, but I can show you what I did do, which is I did a little bit of a mixed media, so I mix this up with some of the other stuff. So so this is some of the Mondeluz overcolored pencil. Let me show you right here. This is the wet Mondeluz, and then up here I believe this is the, oh, this is also the wet Mondeluz, and then I was going to do some in between there. This is also the Mondeluz, not my best work, but I want to show you that they do work really nicely with your other, you know, with your colored pencils and with your whatever. And this is a book that I will be reviewing later today. So this is a book review to look forward to here. Anyway, so let me get out. Actually, before I do the swatch, let me do the swatching first, and then I will do the comparison to the other brands. So I will pause the video right here, get the swatching materials, and then start the swatching. One last thing I wanted to add before I started the swatching is I want to show you the colors that they come in, and I also want to let you know that these are smaller around than, say, the Polychromos. These are closer in size to the Prismacolors, but the core seems to be about the same size, and they do sharpen really well. I haven't had any problems with broken leads or broken anything, but again, I haven't really done that much sharpening because they are really soft, and they lay down really nicely, and they blend really nicely. So I do like how soft they are, which I especially like a softer pencil for watercolor pencils. Anyway, let's get started with this swatching. So I found that I did enjoy how nicely they dissolved. So they did dissolve completely, as you saw in the sketches that I showed you earlier. Okay, that's Stewie. I'm not sure what is going on over there. All right, I'm gonna pause. I don't know what Stewie's. Sorry about that. I don't know. He was just playing with something, and it was making a lot of noise, and I was worried. Anyway, so this is the next color. Like I said, these colors don't have names. So there's that. Let me try to center this. But you can see how nicely they dissolve. And these also have a good deal of pigment, as you can see the amount of pigment that's on here. I was really quite impressed with these. Was actually surprised at how impressed I was by these. One thing though that I found is that while there's a lot of color, it doesn't move as much from the place that you lay it down as much as some other as much as some other brands do in terms of movement from their location. So you can see that it moves a little bit, but it doesn't move as much from where you lay it down. So so that's something to keep in mind as you plan how you're going to do stuff. I mean, it still does move, so it just takes a little bit more work to get it to move from the location where you lay it down. I don't know if I mentioned these are made in the Czech Republic. As highly pigment as, say, your Albert Durers or something like that, but I would consider these to be more of a inexpensive artist grade or higher end student grade. So these are really good pencils, especially for the price, since they don't, you know, since you can get a set of 24 for 18 bucks, which is what I got on there. But as you can see, even though there's a lot of pigment, it doesn't really move from its location as easily as one, you know, as easily as you would get, say, from like a, you know, an Albert Durer or something like that. But you can get it to move. So that's not really the issue, that it doesn't move or that it doesn't dissolve, but that it dissolves and that it pretty much stays right where, like, it dissolves, if that makes any sense. So let me show you, hold on, let me change the angle of this so I can show you a little bit more. Right here, show you with this one, is that when you put water to it, it does, you see how that does dissolve the pigment, but it also doesn't, there's not as much flow, I guess you would say. So that may or may not be something that you want in your colored pencils. I mean, I don't mind it for coloring book. It's a little bit more, it does make it a little bit easier to control. So so I don't really mind the fact that it doesn't have a very strong flow once you add water to it, but you know, some people might mind. See, you see how it does dissolve all that pigment, but that pigment stays pretty much where you lay it down. And you gotta kind of have to work it to get it to move the pigment around. But it's not that it's not dissolving, it's that it's dissolving, but it's staying put. So that's, you know, that's where you see probably where the cost savings are. My guess is that it's probably more expensive to make a pencil that, you know, dissolves and moves really quickly like the Albrecht Durer. And I did get a chance, won't see it in my comparison video, but I did get a chance to try the Caran d'Ache Supra Color. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I really did enjoy those. So that review should be coming up at some point in the future. But anyway. And I also like the color selection that's here. So you can see that it dissolves, and it does take a little bit more work to move it. It's not bad or good, but it's just something to keep in mind for your, you know, for your coloring. I probably would use this only in books or with paper that was a little bit heavier. So this is 100% cotton paper, and I would use it only on thicker paper because it does take a little bit of work to move the pigment. I'd probably stick to using this on thicker paper, on actual watercolor paper. But that's just me. I thought when I first got it that, you know, that I wasn't going to be that impressed with the color selection. I was originally thinking about getting the 32, but I wanted to get other stuff from Jackson's too. Anyway, I thought I wouldn't be that impressed with the color selection, but I actually found it quite passable and quite workable, and I didn't really have a problem with, you know, with this. You could definitely blend some both lighter skin tones and darker skin tones with this, although it's not as full as, like, you know, the portrait set would be much more full. But you can see that this does take a little bit more work to move the pigment. And there isn't as much pigment as, you know, with the Albrecht Durer, but that's okay because you're paying considerably less as well. So there's that. See, even when there's a lot of water on here, it's still a little bit of work to move this pigment around. And the last one, and then after this we can start looking at the comparisons with some of the other brands of watercolor. All right, so I got this out the way. Let me move this here, show you what it looks like. I mean, it dries really nicely and really quickly, but you can see that it, you know, as much as I was working it, I was able to get a lot of pigment out, but I also had to work it, you know, with some degree of seriousness to get the pigment out. So there's that. That's something to keep in mind. So let's move on to the next step, which is to compare the pencils to some other watercolor pencils. So these are, let me go back a little bit. There you go. So these are the ones that we just looked at, the Koh-I-Noor Mondeluz. I think that's correct. I'm pronouncing it like it's Spanish for some reason. And then this is the Koh-I-Noor Polycolor. And this also had the same issue that because they're so similar to the Polycolor, it was a little bit difficult to hold. Ignore that. That was my mistake, but I do want to show you how much it dissolves once you actually, you know, get it, and show you the strength of the pigments. But also I want to show you the color matching is pretty good to the color matching is pretty good to the Koh-I-Noor to the Polycolor. In fact, it's a little bit difficult to tell which is which. That's how good the color matching is. So that's pretty good. That it's a pretty good color match. So you can use these two together. If you have one, you can get the other, and they'll be color matched, which is really nice. So the next one to compare to, this is the Koh-I-Noor, which I'm supposed to write the name down here, and I totally forgot. But anyway, I will do my best to remind you. This is the Crayola. You can see that it's definitely stronger and more pigmented than the Crayola. This is the Cretacolor Marino, and you can see that it definitely is also more pigmented and blends better than those two. You can see, especially in the yellow, you can see it really well in the yellow and the green right there. This is the Durer watercolor pencils, which I must say I was not as impressed by, but they still did, you know, blend, and you can see that these are definitely not as chalky as the Durer watercolor, so there's that. The Durer ink tints, which are not watercolor but are ink, but I still thought that I would compare the colors just because I have it here, and I will be doing a review of the ink tints at some point, but the ink tints are not watercolor, these are ink, but still I just, you know, I have it, so I figure why not. Next up is the Albert Durer. So you can see that they're definitely quite pigmented. You can see also, I'm not sure I can show you in the purple, you can see that there's not really that much purple there, but you can see how much pigment I got. And I was able to get more pigment, but I also laid down more layers there too. So that's the same thing here, that there's not that much color here. Let me show you the red. There's not that much color in the Albert Durer, but it does give you, the Albert Durer does give you almost as much pigment with much less of the colored pencil. So there's that. And I left this one bare so you can see that I didn't really lay them on pretty thick, and I did have to layer this on pretty thick to get this intensity of color. But I wanted to show you that as something to, you know, to be aware of, even though it doesn't look, you know, the Albert Durer on the surface, it would look like the Albert Durer is more pigmented, but that's only because I didn't really use as much for the Albert Durer. And if I went over it and did it again, it would definitely show the difference. I think with this one, I did use a little bit more pigment, but you can definitely see when you use a little bit more, you can see how much more pigmented the Albert Durer gets once you use, you know, once you use a little bit more actual colored pencil. So there's that. This is the Albert Durer Magnus, and it was a little bit easier to get more color on there, but I did. But anyway, so that's the Mondeluz. Overall, I was pretty happy with it. I found these to be a very good value watercolor pencil, especially if you are in Europe, where something like the Prismacolor might be particularly expensive, or where, you know, you have different sorts of options. Again, I was really impressed by these. The main complaints that I have in terms of these pencils is that they look pretty much identical to the regular Koh-I-Noor, except for the fact that there's a brush here. But when you pick them up, it feels exactly the same. It's not a big enough, like I would want something bigger and bolder to let me know that I'm using something different. And this is the Polycolor, to let me know that I'm using something different. But otherwise, I found the color selection, especially in this 24 assorted set, to be a very good color selection. Oh, that's one thing that I found was kind of funny, is that this thing is weird. Like the way that they want you to do it is they want you to flip over like that. So if you do it sideways, like I want to do, it's not really gonna look. But anyway, that's a non-issue. I just want to share that with you. But I did want to show you these pencils, and thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, overall, I really like these pencils. There will be a link down in the description below to both Jackson's and Amazon, as well as I also added an Amazon affiliates link recently. So there'll be that Amazon affiliate link will be down in the description for you guys to save and shop through Amazon that way, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, and it helps the channel a lot, actually. You know, so there's that. And thank you guys so much for watching. Special thank you again to the patrons for making videos like these possible. And there'll be a link to the Patreon down below in the description. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.